Welcome in to the DNVR Rockies podcast, brought to you by Strava Craft Coffee. Remember to use the promo code DNVR20 because when you do that, you get 20% off your entire purchase of that CBD-infused, deliciously rich, and potentially life-altering Strava Craft Coffee. I'm your host, Drew Kreisman. I'm the managing editor of DNVR Rockies. With me, as always, is beat writer Patrick Lyons. And on this episode, we discuss the return of baseball, the very first spring training competition for your Colorado Rockies against the Arizona Diamondbacks. As we are speaking right this moment, the game has not yet concluded, but we'll have the final score for you. They're getting ready to wrap this thing up. We got a lot of notes we want to get through here. Hopefully the Rockies are holding on for a 4-2 or better win in this thing. But Patrick, a few main takeaways. I think, first of all, even though for me, the offense is the thing I want to talk about the most, Austin Gomber being the guy that came back in the Nolan Arenado trade, getting the start here and looking pretty darn solid in a couple of innings of work.
Didn't walk a batter, so you like that he was able to stay around the strike zone, was able to miss one bat. So he struck out a batter in his two frames, gave up a single hit. Also got out of a jam of sorts, with Brendan Rodgers making an error there to open up the game. But he looked really solid, and it's definitely something to build on, and it's exactly what you want to see. Maybe we'll kind of get to Chichi Gonzalez's day, but it makes you feel better, certainly, about his odds in holding down that fifth spot in the rotation, as there's several candidates, but Gomber is going to get the first crack at it, and he took a step forward, and Chichi Gonzalez, during his inning of work, took a big step backwards.
Yeah, it was interesting there, the very beginning of the game. It's it got me thinking about Major League, right? And obviously this is spring training, not the start of the regular season, but you could say a lot about how the season's going to go from that very first at bat or the very first, however that goes. And you've got an error to start the game. Brendan Rodgers commits a throwing error on what should have been a real easy out. And then right after that, Gomber uncorks a wild pitch. So the Diamondbacks have a runner in scoring position without having earned it at all, but as the Rockies are still like putting their shoes on, and you're going, oh man, is this just going to turn into a comedy of errors, literally and figuratively? And it didn't. He settled in very nicely, worked around the leadoff double in the second. And that's something that it's early yet, but you like to see.
Sure. There's every game that we see in spring is worth something and nothing at the same time. It's something if you want to latch on to something to feel hopeful about it, then great. And you absolutely should. And it's positive. It's something for these guys to build on. It's what they hope to do is have that so they don't have to totally throw it out of their mind. But at the same time, if you get something that's less than desired, like the Rodgers error, I know Tapia had some issue on a play out in left field. I think some of it had to do with where, he was positioned to start the play. You go, oh man, these things, that's not great, but it doesn't mean all that much. Trevor Story wasn't in the lineup. Charlie Blackmon wasn't in the lineup. What do we take from that? Nothing. These guys are veterans. It's Sunday. They usually get the day off. So I imagine that with this year's spring training kind of opening up on a Sunday, which is a little unusual to say the least. I think NFL is pretty much the only league I know that proudly opens up on a Sunday, and it's only spring training, but you take it all with a grain of salt. But when you're winning these games and your guys are playing competitively and doing all those little things well, it feels good. It feels nice.
Yeah. As we've often talked about in the past, and it's good to get these reminders out again as we're doing the spring training, right? What are the caveats? What are the things you buy into? What are the things you take with a grain of salt? One thing that really did impress me, though, Patrick, the thing I think that was the big kind of immediate, if you're looking for that silver ray of whatever, you just want to feel good about a Rockies thing, was not actually when they ended up scoring the runs with the offense, but you mentioned this young offense, no Charlie, no Trevor, first time through the order against Zach Gallen, who's a very polished, very meticulous, very good major league pitcher. and they get 4 base runners first time through. Couple of walks, couple of singles, working some at bats, making him work. He didn't even get 3 outs in the first inning. He reached a pitch count, so that's a win for you as well in these spring training games as an offense. But to see your young guys go out there and kind of day one go, you know what, we're not just going to roll over and die just because nobody believes in us. And Hampson thrown out a couple hits, Fuentes thrown out a couple of hits, Rymack with a big double. And that all came, for the most part, one Zach Gallen came out of the game. But still, for these guys to come out literally swinging, you want to see it. You love to see it.
Zach Gallen got some Cy Young Award votes last year, and is a guy, paired with Madison Bumgarner. Like, be ready, folks. Zach Gallen is the odds-on favorite to have a better season than Madison Bumgarner. Like, that's the kind of guy that we're talking about in Zach Gallen, and he's got big hopes to go out and finish that high in the Cy Young Award voting. Set some records. Here in the early start of his career with quality starts or giving up 3 or less earned runs. So he's been fantastic since the D-backs acquired him in a trade. And you're right, Drew, seeing these Rockies guys go out and, not swing early. I think that might've been a lot of the game plan is let's cut down on our strikeouts. And you saw that the strikeout numbers were absolutely down. But I will say this, you know what? Here's the advantage of having a good analytics team, Drew. The first inning, the Diamondbacks had runners on base against the Rockies, right? And what happened? They didn't have to get the 3rd out in the first inning against the Rockies, so they gave up no runs. Now that's a good analytics department. You ask me.
That's
I think it's a great strategy. That's what I'm putting that on.
So well. I was so not ready.
You're like, wow, you've got a hot take early on.
He's gonna bring this. Like, this is gonna be great. Like,
this happened in the Cardinals game when I was watching it early because the Cardinals have I don't know, they're like a favorite in the NL Central. So I said, let me check this team out. The St. Louis Cardinals, huh? Let's see what they're all about. But yeah, the same thing happened with Jack Flaherty. He got to like 27 pitches in the first inning, and they were just like, "No, you know what? We're good. Like we're going to end this inning here, like it was an exhibition high school game." Right. And so I'm sure it was already hard enough to try to keep score in a spring training game. If you got your little box score there and you're writing your 5-3, ground ball to third base, over to first base, it's not even more impossible. You're going to know the names because these games are shorter, so they're not bringing in AA, low A guys. You're going to know the names a little bit more so, but you're also going to have no idea how guys got out of an inning. Was that a double play? Wait, did they reverse the call? No, they're just going to call it. But you're right. Like they did a really nice job there, and they've got things that they're going to need to work on. And today, those areas that they worked on absolutely looked good. They looked really nice for the Rockies without their 2 best offensive players in Story and Blackmon.
Yeah, Mill's asking, what do you think of the guy from the Hoffman trade? I'm going to guess. I think I'm going to take an educated guess here and say you're talking about Jamison Hanna. Nice little under-the-radar spring training Rockies debut for Hanna, who makes a sliding grab in right field to help out Philip Deal in his inning, whatever inning that was, and drives in a run, picking up his teammate in that situation there. Your boy, your guy, Alan Trejo, starts that inning off with a double, moves over on a deep fly ball from Colton Welker, who's always showed up to spring training and swung a big bat. I'm curious to see what he's going to do. There will be a lot more Welker conversation to come for sure, but just moves over on that. Stamets strikes out. That's the kind of thing that at the major league level, something that's plagued the Rockies when their offense has struggled, not getting the productive out, especially when it can bring in a run. Jamison Hanna picks up his teammate, 2 out, RBI single back up the middle. Nice game for Hanna.
He looked great. And the one thing I didn't realize was how young he is. I mean, he's no spring chicken. Well, he's also not very old either. He's 23 years old. He's a spring chicken.
I was gonna say.
He's still a spring chicken.
It's easy now.
But when you
does
actually
he know who Bruce Springsteen is the question. We're gonna have to start working this in. We're gonna have to start asking these guys.
25 and under,
right?
If you're not from the East Coast and you're not, big music aficionado. I mean, again, everybody likes pop music, but how broad is your canvas music that you typically play. But if you look at the roster of guys, that the non-roster invites, the 40-man roster, he's like 5th or 6th youngest on this roster. So he's absolutely going to get an opportunity, might be starting in center field for Albuquerque. So he's a name, you could get familiar with on the depth chart. He could be, if you take Chris Owings out of the mix, you've got 4 guys in the outfield between Hilliard and Hampson in center field. Hampson got the nod to start at center with Hilliard in right. Blackman's going to be in right during the season. Tapia's going to be in left. We know Daza's in the mix as the 5th guy. Number 6 could be Jamison Hanna. So he's a guy that seemed like he might have been a bit of a throw-in the Stevenson-Hoffman deal, where the Reds got Case Williams from Castle Rock, local boy, and the Rockies got Jamison Hanna to give them a little bit more depth. But you're seeing here early on that he could be a little bit more than just a depth piece and could be a good contributing member of this team, not just in 2021, but beyond. And that's what this season's going to be about. A lot of it is going to be about that beyond. And that's why you shouldn't completely take your eyes off the Colorado Rockies this season.
Yeah, how amazing would it be if Jamison Hanna is one of the guys from the offseason moves that ends up working out? But you got to like the way he showed up. Just as an update, Tommy Doyle strikes out a Diamondbacks player.
Junior Corqueto?
Thank you. Yeah. Junior Corqueto. And so the Rockies will take at bats in the bottom of the 8th, but with the lead. So they will win this game.
We are still setting record. We're still doing historical things this year. Right. But it's the 8th too. That's the other thing. It's technically not, historic until they call it after the 8th inning.
That's right.
So this could be one of the longer games we actually see all spring. Like for a while. I forget what the actual date is, but there's going to be a point in the future in March where they will extend it to 9 innings and discuss, hey, maybe it's a little bit shorter. And so I think a lot of these games are going to be more like 7 innings. But when the starting pitchers, go their 2 innings, go their 3 innings, are able to do what they need to do, we might see the games stretch on a little bit longer. Yeah. So this is almost an extra inning affair,
right?
At 8 innings. Because get used to 7 innings, folks. Get used to 7 innings.
So you can officially toast your Breckenridge brew. If you've got your Seltzy, get your Seltzy. I'm working on it. I can't.
We're going to give you an A for effort.
Maybe once I've really downed a couple. Apparently, I missed an evening at the DNVR bar. It sounds like in the Hangouts there was a trial and maybe a little bit of error, but mostly trial period with those Breck Brew Seltzies. But I'm going to go ahead and toast this Vanilla Porter Jr., I think, to the Colorado Rockies' first win of spring training. Now they're just working for pride, trying to get a few extra here just to tack on. But you get your Breck Brew down at King Soopers Liquor Store, DNVR bar.
I'm going to give you an IPA for effort for trying the Seltzies. Like that. I don't hate it.
I don't hate it. Something else I don't hate. Wildly Innocent asking about the performance of Heath Holder. Don't know a whole lot about Heath Holder, but he came in pumping gas, as did Jordan Sheffield, somebody we've talked about, and Jesus Tinoco, all with impressive performances out of the bullpen. We'll talk about the bad stuff from Chi-Chi in just a minute, but what did you think of those guys? And what can you tell me about Holder? I would think he's one of those guys you're probably a bit better educated on than I am.
Yeah, he had a really good 2019 season with Hartford. Was a guy that I think spent a little time in the back end of the bullpen in 2018 with Lancaster, with a few other guys, Alexander Guillen, Justin Lawrence that year. Lancaster seemed to have a lot of good and kind of promising up-and-coming relievers, which, isn't necessarily a great thing. It's nothing that doesn't have a lot of upscale value. You'd rather have a guy like a Jeff Hoffman, for better or worse, that flames out from starting pitching, and you go, all right, now focus on relieving. Let's see what you've got. Same thing with Yency Almonte, where he was a guy starting pitcher, and now all of a sudden he's a guy you get excited about and you say, can't wait to see him this spring. maybe he's the closer of the future for the team, but he was a starting pitcher to begin with. So Holder was, a career reliever, did a nice job in the back end of the bullpen with Hartford, but he's 28 years old, a righty, doesn't have too much projectability. Could be he's in that class of guys of where you say a Joe Harvey or a right-handed James Pazos, where he's a guy you might need to call on. So he's a name that you don't know, but he's not a young prospect to really get too excited about. But he did pitch well in his inning, and the other guy you mentioned, Jordan Sheffield, I was very excited.
Will's
to see
right.
him do
Heath
well.
Holder is the perfect bullpen name, by the way. But yeah, Jordan Sheffield, despite Heath Holder's perfect bullpen name, the Holder.
That's a name that if you're playing MLB The Show and they create a player name, you're like, no, I'm not using that. Like, what's his name? That's like having like a burly first baseman and the computer generates his name. He's Devin Mash. And you're like, no, on the nose.
No, it's a little much.
Burly first baseman named Devin Mash. I don't believe it. Heath Holder, that's obviously a computer generated name. No, folks, that's a real guy that could be on your Rockies this season.
That's a good idea for a shirt. I'll send that to D-Line. I'll see what he says. But Jordan Sheffield, comes in 1-2-3 inning, punctuates it with a strikeout on a low fastball, which I like. When you're sneaking low fastballs by guys, you're throwing it with some movement, some zip. He looked good. He actually got the first 1-2-3 inning of the day for the Rockies.
Yeah, he did. I was able to get a strikeout. Was also the first walk of the game. Phil Deal was another guy who, went out and had a nice clean inning. I think he had a really few amount of pitches that he threw in that frame as he could be a guy that could be the lefty in the pen. I think that could be another problem for the Rockies this season. If Ben Bowden, steps up kind of like, the organization thought he would last year. And again, the reason he didn't was he was hurt. So that's not his fault.
Right.
But I think Bowden's going to be the guy that gets a crack at it. We could see Philip Deal. So again, you like these guys having, positive outings going forward. And this could be a common theme that we see all spring and all season, is that the pitchers, the rotation, the relievers, they're going to have this confidence to know, like, we got this. Like, they're going to start having some swagger, even if they're only league average, with the offense taking a step back. Obviously they're going to without Arenado, but with the offense taking a step back, I think the starters are going to have a little bit of a swagger and feel like, hey, we're the ones that are okay. We're the ones that have got the mojo. We got the juice. And I mean, you saw that today with all these guys going out and shoving during their one inning of action.
More real-time updates here. The Colorado Rockies rallying in the bottom of the meaningless eighth. Alan Trejo getting a one-out walk after Ryan Vilade lined out to center field. Colton Welker singles on a sharp grounder to third baseman. Not quite sure what happened there. And then Eric Stamets comes up with another single to center field. So that scores a run. Rocky's still working. I'm not quite sure. This game day is being a little bit strange. Somebody presumably is at the dish right now.
they worked from ahead, right? Well, they worked from behind. No, they worked from ahead. Our guy Jamison Hanna is up.
Okay.
Tyler Gilbert doesn't want to have anything to do with him.
So
number 88, number 88 against number 67. So this is an important at bat.
The Titans.
It is, yeah. But it's good that Hanna is going to have, 2 at bats today. As you said, Josh Fuentes, 2 hits today, which is really great. Crone did get the start, but was the DH. And, I think Fuentes is going to need to, play well to play for his spot on the team, only because I think the writing is on the wall that, CJ Cron's going to be the first baseman for this club. So I don't know about you, but if I was a guy that contributed to the team to the degree that Fuentes was, and, they go out and they just pick up somebody off the scrap heap to a degree. And again,
and 2 guys at first base, though, really 2 guys in Greg Bird and CJ Cron who can't play anywhere but first. And that's right. You're like, wasn't I thought that was my spot.
That stings a little bit. Right. And you go, I get it. You don't want to give it to me yet. I haven't entirely proven anything. I've proven a lot, but it's almost like you're stacking the deck against me. So Fuentes goes out immediately and says, "Hey, look, I'll find a spot on the team. Give me a glove. I'll play a position." So you like seeing that he was still able to kind of do that and put that past him and be able to play without a chip on the shoulder for his organization. He's had to play with a chip on his shoulder, his entire career, but it's one in which everybody just doubts him. And when it's your own team, that could feel a little bit different, but nevertheless, he's a guy that, again, all Rockies fans are going to be rooting for this kid.
Jamison Hanna strikes out swinging, and Jose Briseño grounds out to third. Jose Briseño, one of two players in this game for the Colorado Rockies who's been in the organization, then out of the organization, and then back in the organization. Love to see Briseño back. It'll be interesting to see how he can work his way into the catching picture. Didn't do much there today, but this game officially in the books, a 5-2 win for your Colorado Rockies over the Arizona Diamondbacks in their spring training debut.
Are there more than two guys that have gone out and come back? Because Tinoco would be another.
Yeah, Tinoco.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Tinoco's the other one. Tinoco
if we had
and
a different
Briseño.
two.
Who would be? I don't think there are any others.
No, I think that might be it. But Briseño,
Arenado's not back, is he?
Not yet.
Double check.
One of the interesting things, because we haven't entirely dug into all the stuff with the health and safety protocols, but there's going to be a taxi squad again this year, a 5-man taxi squad, which is weird. And last year there was no minor league baseball, so you go on the road with the team as part of the taxi squad. I mean, you're just missing some competition against the guys at Metro State, so not too bad, not too bad. But now, if you're on that taxi squad, you could be starting down in Albuquerque. That is something that I'm really intrigued to see what could happen. And
it's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, I think Jose Briseño is a perfect guy. Like, look, I don't need to prove anything in AAA. Like, I'm getting my reps, as the third string catcher, and if something goes on, I'm in, I'm out. Like, I think he's okay with kind of being yo-yoed back and forth. I'm not sure, who else it'll be. It could be a guy like Eric Stamets, who doesn't necessarily have to prove too much at the AAA level. And can kind of get ready pretty quickly. So we could see a lot of these more veteran guys on that taxi squad. Again, it's very early to figure out who that could be, because if it's anybody young and anybody that has any value, do you want Jonathan Daza getting those reps in AAA if he's going to be the 5th outfielder or 6th outfielder in the odd man out? Maybe.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. All right, the final thing that we've got to talk about here, brought to you by the Colorado XOs. If you're wondering, what is that? Well, then you got to get in on the rugby thing. Look, it's not too late to still be one of the cool kids who got in on the ground floor of this. You want to be one of those rugby hipsters. I'm telling you, you don't want to be one of those people a couple of years from now when rugby's the biggest sport in the country saying, "Oh yeah, I was there at the beginning. I swear I was." And you really weren't. You don't want to be that guy or gal. You want to be the person who gets in on the ground floor. Right now is the time. The Colorado XOs are coming here to Rugby Town, USA. Athletes who have competed at the highest level of their respective sports out there trying to prove to you, to themselves, to everybody else that they can make it on the rugby pitch. And yes, I know that it's called the rugby pitch. I know that they're called matches. And I know you're supposed to kick the rugby ball out of bounds. Darn it, on purpose, because I listen to the Colton Strickler podcast. They don't often go over that basic, but they'll hit you with the 101 stuff that you need to know. They'll get you in-depth interviews with the players, written content, really above and beyond what you could expect from anybody out there, and they're doing a fantastic job at DNVR Rugby. Get on board. I'm telling you, you don't want to miss it. And April 3rd and 10th, the first couple of matches, they're going to be live streamed. I'm going to be watching. Hang out with us on Twitter, the whole thing, the DNVR family coming together April 3rd and 10th. Mark your calendars. It's rugby season, baby.
Let's get it.
Let's get it going.
Let's see those ruggers.
If you got your rugby on your TV, you got your Breck Brew in your hand, that means you've also got your Hassel Cattle Company beef on the stove, getting ready to get into your belly. I have got an open challenge out to anybody who wants to tell me that this stuff has been in any way disappointing. We've been going for weeks here. I have got nothing but glowing reviews. Wagyu beef could just change your life. No hormones, antibiotics, any of that garbage. And they don't charge you out the wazoo for all that nonsense. They treat the animals well. It treats the environment well. Treats your wallet well. Treats your body well. And it just tastes damn good. At the end of the day, that's really what you want, is a delicious burger or steak or ground beef, ground chuck. The bacon is unbeatable. Just anything that you try, whatever it is, you're into jalapeno sausage, they got everything. If you're doing big orders, you can do, if you got freezer space, over $200, you get free shipping, or you can do even the bigger, half the carcass stuff. If you're loading up for a big, long time, you just go in littler stuff. They'll hit you up with promotion after promotion when they've got a little excess of something, always hooking up their customers. They've won one over for me, even if they weren't a sponsor. I'll tell you what, no need to go back to the grocery store for beef. Haven't done it since they've come on board. Check them out at hasslecattlecompany.com. That's HASSELL cattlecompany.com.
Drew, I've actually had to go and price freezers. Like, all right, do I want to invest in a freezer? I've already invested in some beef here with Hassel Cattle Company. Do I want to go invest in a freezer? So I'm pricing them. I am pricing them as we speak.
There you go. That's in. That's when you know you're in. So some people out there may have beef, Patrick, with one Chichi Gonzalez. Did not have a good year last year. The year before.
Had his moments.
He's that's the thing, is Chichi's had his moments. And as you and I know, one of the truly good guys in this world.
Great.
Really. Dude. Just but it's just another game where he 3 hard hit balls. One goes out of the yard, one off the top of the wall for Trace Thompson, the homer. Peralta with the double, I think. And, again, the only 2 runs that the Diamondbacks get in the game against Chichi. As you said earlier, took a step back here. Where do you think he lands right now in terms of the Rockies, like rotation depth chart? And, what needs to go his way for him to be that guy who either sneaks into the 5th spot if there's an injury, or is the first call, once the season starts?
I think right now he's probably 7th. Gomber is the favorite right now, and looked great today. Looked great. Yeah. Castellani is probably the next guy up. Right. We'll probably see him in the next couple of days, and then we're gonna have Chichi right after that. Derek Rodriguez could possibly be in that mix as well. He could be a tie for 7th. I think he has some ability coming out of the pen, so that might be why I would possibly slot Chichi in ahead, right? And then Rolison, they're just going to protect him. But I think he just got
to know about that. I'll say I'm very curious to see how they push Rolison. I'm very curious, because they got way more aggressive with him last year than I thought they were going to. So
he did almost make his debut. There were those rumors that the season was going to end in Arizona, that he might have made his start. I'm not really sure what went down about that, and we'll maybe have to ask him or ask Buddy when it's his day. That's usually typically how it works. Is we have certain guys lined up that we talk to in the morning or before and after the game, and it's like, okay, we're just going to focus on those guys so we're not too all over the map. So I'd be curious about that. But Chichi just has to get a little bit more consistent. With spotting his fastball, again, giving up a homer to a guy like Trace Thompson is not a household name. His brother Clay is one of the Splash brothers with the Golden State Warriors, but not Trace so much. He looked good today. Yeah. But Chichi is, he's going to get those innings, whether or not, he starts the year down in Albuquerque or is also one of those, taxi squad guys. Because again, you're in a bad spot if you're on the taxi squad, because you're missing out on reps, but at the same time, you have an opportunity to maybe get more service time. And you know what? If the right thing happens, somebody gets unlucky and is not able to play for a game, and you go down the active roster, next thing you know, that's it. You're a full timer. So I could see Chichi being of that mindset of like, yeah, I'm flexible. I'm okay with that. I can hang.
Yeah, I think the kind of comforting thing about Chichi Gonzalez is that obviously the Rockies can afford to let this play out for now, right? As long as they're healthy, as you said, they've got Their five, I think, are there. Gomber's pretty much going to be the guy. And I think you're right. They like Castellani. They want to challenge him. They want to push him, see what he can do. Unless he has just a miserable spring, I think he's going to be the guy who's sitting there in the first call position, right? For you Top Gun fans, he's ready on alert 5. Anybody? But after that, it gets really kind of up in the air. And I do think I think you're right that Chichi has the spot right now because of experience and just resume and just kind of de facto, right? He's right there. But there's a bunch of guys who are going to challenge him for that spot. You mentioned Derek Rodriguez. Very curious to see him pitch. As I was going through some numbers, finding that he does actually have a higher career ERA plus by 1 than Chichi Gonzalez. Chichi has a 93. Derek has a 94. And then where is it? Castellani down there with the 91. Very curious to see how they push Ryan Rollison and then how Jose Mujica and Antonio Santos work into that mix, whether or not those are guys that emerge in that. But I think they're almost kind of all tied for 7th through 10th, right? It's just a big jumble right there. And you see who works out. So if it turns out that Chichi just doesn't have it and the fans are like, that's one of the things you'd be like, well, then move him back into 10th and move up some of these other guys and see what happens.
And I think with Mujica and Antonio Santos, you're right. Like, I think they kind of get forgotten about in a lot of ways, but it's because, with those guys being on the 40-man, they've got options to go back and forth to the minors. But with Chichi and Derek Rodriguez, you could put these guys on the 40-man roster and then take them off and put them back on. Like we saw with Drew Butera. So you're gonna have a little flexibility with those guys to a degree. Mujica, still hasn't really. He hasn't pitched 50 innings since I want to say maybe 2018. And he pitched way more than that. So he's got a long way to go. Same thing with Antonio Santos. He's got a few more miles.
24 and 23 years old.
Yeah.
I forgot that Santos is still 23. Like, oh, geez.
And so I think they want those guys to be kind of settled and have some normalcy and get back to a routine. So I would really prefer that those guys just kind of settled in, get back to, being a starter and not be bounced back and forth with a spot. And then he's a long man in the bullpen and stuff. That was fine for last year, but I would actually like to see those guys settled in, get some solid innings under their belt. And then we might see them take that next step forward. So I think that's probably one of the bigger reasons why, they're left out of that main group just outside of Rollison.
Yeah, I think that's correct. All right, I think we're actually going to wrap this one up here. We've got plenty more to talk about, but we were going to have a lot more podcasts coming your way, a lot more live shows. Now that there's actual baseball to talk about, we'll be breaking all this stuff down. I asked Bud Black this morning about Scott Oberg and Daniel Bard. We'll have that conversation for you on tomorrow's podcast. A little bit more to talk about with everything that's coming up with Rocky spring training, obviously, and breaking down these position battles. I know a lot of you are wondering, who are some of these guys? Well, we'll be very happy to tell you. And we're super excited that our friend from a myriad of places, including KOA, Vic Vela, is going to be joining us on Tuesday for the show. An absolute, you're not going to want to miss this one. It's going to probably have a little bit more of a serious tone than some of our podcasts do. Vic has just a hell of a story of recovery from addiction, and something he's very open about, does a show about. It's something we're going to talk about, but it's something that, it goes around in a lot of sports, and to see what he's been able to do, and is out there covering the Rockies and doing and plenty of other stuff. The guy's he's incredible. He's one of my favorite people in this community that we've never gotten to have on the show before. And I'm very, very excited to have him. So that's going to be on Tuesday. And if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, you're going to miss a spectacular one. You got to be there, hit the like button, subscribe there, all that good stuff.
Great DFA show coming up this week. Another fun one. We're going to have Drew Goodman on. So we still got a packed week, and we have games too. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a challenge in a good way. To how can we pack all of this in to a week? And the season hasn't even begun yet, but that's the challenge that we love to face each and every week during the baseball season at the DNVR Rockies podcast.
Going to be awesome. You got to join us the whole time. Make sure you're following on social media at Drew Creasman, at Patrick D. Lyons, at DNVR_Rockies. You subscribe to the DNVR.com so you don't miss out on any of that written content. Plus, you get discounts on hats and shirts and masks. You get bigger beer when you come down to the DNVR bar eventually to watch Rockies games on the television screens. And you get access to our private chat room, the Discord channel, where we're talking baseball 24/7. You can also hop in, talk any of the other sports, movies, TV, whatever's going on in your life. We want to hear about all of it. We're having a fun time. As Patrick said, there's almost too much going on. Come share your latest WandaVision theories with me in the private Discord chat. Thank you for you all continuing to be absolutely awesome out there. We promise to continue being absolutely Patrick Lyons and Drew Creasman in here. And until next time, we will see you at the ballpark.